A useful skill my father taught me is managing my money. He taught me this skill by giving me an allowance when I was in school. From this, I learned how to plan what I should spend my money on. Today, I use this skill all the time when I get my monthly paycheck. I know how much money I should spend on food, clothing, and other expenses.
In high school, I spent my free time acting with the theater club. I think this was a good way to spend my free time. For example, one thing I did was practice for shows. I did this because I thought acting was fun. Another thing I did was build and paint things we used on stage. I did this because I enjoyed working with other members of the club. Spending my free time with the theater club in high school was a great experience for me.
One difficult experience that I went through was living alone in another city. I experienced this when I moved in order to go to school. It was difficult because I didn't have any friends or relatives there. This meant I had to do everything myself and solve lots of problems by myself. From this experience, I learned self-reliance. Now I know that I can take care of myself.
One person I admire is my mother. I admire her because she works very hard. My mother is a homemaker. She has worked hard to raise me and my brothers and sisters. Even though she does not earn a wage or hold a high job in a company, she has shown me how important it is to do your life's work the best that you can.
One dangerous sport that I would like to try is skydiving. This sport looks like it would be a lot of fun. In order to do this sport, you have to be brave enough to jump out of the plane. I want to see if I can be that brave. I also think that I would enjoy the feeling of free falling. That is why I want to try skydiving.
I don't want to try any dangerous or extreme sports. One reason I don't want to try them is because I could get injured. I always try to take care of myself and be healthy, so I don't want to hurt my body by doing an extreme sport. Another reason I don't want to try any extreme sports is because they cost a lot of money. I am not rich, so I don't want to waste my money.
I prefer movies made to entertain audiences. One movie that fits this category is Spider-Man 2. I saw this movie because several of my friends told me it was good. This movie was entertaining because it had lots of great special effects and an interesting story. This movie made me forget about real life for a few hours, and I enjoyed the fantastic life of a superhero for a little while.
I prefer movies made to make audiences contemplate certain issues. One movie that fits this category is Erin Brockovich. I saw this movie because my friend wanted to see it. This movie made people think about the issue of justice because it told the story of how a woman fought for the rights and safety of others. This movie made me contemplate how some businesses hurt the environment, and I discussed this issue and the story of this movie with my friend after the movie was over.
The woman learns that the professor is sick and that classes are being canceled. At first she worries about the professor and the canceled classes. The man, however, explains that the professor is not seriously ill and that they have an extra week until the professor is back to finish their assignment. After that, the woman feels glad because she was behind in her work. The university is adding more security guards to campus night patrols. Students are informed this decision follows recent damage and thefts occurring on campus. The woman states that things are serious. The woman's friends had things stolen from their dormitory rooms, and the woman herself is now worried about being robbed too. The man understands. He has seen damage done to school property and buildings. The man thinks people doing all these things should be caught. The woman agrees and adds that any information should be reported. They both agree that adding security guards on campus is a good idea. The dean recommended that all literature majors should have practice in creative writing, so the English department made creative writing a required class for graduation. The woman thinks this is a good idea, and the man has the same opinion. The man explains that the creative writing he has been doing on his own has helped him analyze the literary works he has had to study. He thinks the required creative writing class will make him a better writer and a better student. He also doesn't mind because the class is easy to fit into his schedule.
When Mount Vesuvius erupted in AD 79, it wiped out the city of Pompeii, poof, just like that. Pompeii at the time was a large city with a rich culture. Some people thought it was even more advanced than Rome. The eruption began about noon on August 24th, although the final eruption wasn't until midnight that day. So what happened? Why couldn't the people escape? Scientists have now discovered that the citizens of Pompeii did not die as a result of lava or molten rock. Instead, Vesuvius let out a great stream of superheated air. The air from the volcano was so hot that it killed the people instantly. Later, their bodies were covered with ash and volcanic rock.
This reading passage talks about the eruption of Mount Vesuvius. It erupted in 79 AD and destroyed Pompeii. The speaker says that it was strange because even though the volcano erupted for 12 hours, people couldn't escape. In fact, people in Pompeii died due to superheated air from the volcano and not lava. Later, their bodies were covered in ash.
We call it the Dead Sea for one simple reason. Nothing lives in it. Why not, you ask? Because the Dead Sea is full of salt, mineral salt. This mineral salt is carried into the Dead Sea from rivers. However, this salt is trapped here because no rivers flow out of the Dead Sea. When water evaporates, it leaves behind all the dissolved minerals, making the sea even saltier. Water evaporation and mineral salts carried into the sea from the rivers account for the Dead Sea's unusual saltiness.
The reading passage says that the Dead Sea has a lot of mineral salt. This salt is deadly to plants and fish, so there are no living things in the sea. The Dead Sea has 10 times as much salt as the ocean. Rivers carry mineral salts into the Dead Sea. Salt is trapped there because no rivers flow out of the Dead Sea. Water evaporation also makes the sea even saltier.
At the time of its origin, jazz was not widely accepted as real music by mainstream white America. Most people thought it was too wild and unstructured. Later, however, when white musicians such as Elvis Presley began incorporating elements of jazz into their music, the music became wildly popular. It was especially popular with the younger generations. Since then, rock and roll music has gone on to dominate the pop music scene. Today, it has evolved into many modern forms such as punk, rhythm and blues, and hip-hop.
This reading passage talks about how jazz music began. First, it says that African American musicians made jazz music. This music was different or special because it combined rhythms from African music with melodies from European music. The speaker says that white musicians didn't like jazz at first. They thought jazz was too wild and that it wasn't real music. Then some white musicians began incorporating parts of jazz music into their songs. Eventually, one of these musicians, Elvis Presley, became really popular. So jazz, along with rock and other forms, became popular with younger people.
We know that Ludwig van Beethoven was born in 1770 in Bonn, Germany, but we're uncertain of the month. Beethoven wrote hundreds of songs. One of his most famous is his Fifth Symphony. The first four notes go like this: da-da-da-da. Almost everyone recognizes them. He was the first to use trombones in a symphony. At age 28, he began to go deaf. Yet, he kept on writing and conducting. He never got married. But after he died, friends found some love letters. We don't know who he wrote them to. Beethoven died in 1827.
Okay, let's talk about animals we don't see in the winter. Many animals hibernate during the cold months of the year. Basically, they go to sleep. Some animals hibernate in holes in the ground. Others sleep in caves, under bushes, or at the base of trees. Bears hibernate. So do cold-blooded animals, like frogs and snakes. When animals are hibernating, it seems like they're dead. They have slow heartbeats, and they almost stop breathing. They have stored extra energy and fat to keep them alive. By the end of winter, they are very weak. They must eat soon after waking up.
Track and field events happened long before they became a sport. The Sand people in Africa are one example. They still hold what's called a persistence hunt. The men find the tracks of an antelope herd. They find the antelope and follow them for several days and nights. During this time, they study the animals and choose one. Then the hunt begins. Only the fastest runner will go after the chosen animal. He and the animal may run for as long as 8 hours. If the hunter persists, the deer will finally get tired and fall. Then he'll slaughter it.